Hey everybody, I'm Todd and this is Sweet Tea Guitars. Thank you so much for stopping by the channel and welcome to my life. Today is Sunday, August the 21st. I would really love to have this figure 8 build done by the end of this month, at least in finish by the end of this month. The finish may not be cured by that time or whatever, but I would really love to be able to do a play demo on this guitar by the end of the second week in September so I can get this guitar delivered to the customer. I got big plans coming up here on the channel. I need to get my Great Guitar Build Off project finished, get it turned in, and edit my last video for that by the end of September. So I got to get moving on this stuff, you guys. Here is the figure 8 build in its current form. I think this is beautiful. When I start wiping oil on this thing, it's going to really come to life, and I can't wait for that. We're going to get back to work on this guitar. So as you can see, I've got some overhang right here. And I've debated on this and tried to decide whether or not I wanted to take care of that with the router or if I wanted to carry this to the spindle sander and just let it take me the extra time. What I've pretty much decided to do is to take care of that with the router. The reason being, it'll be so much quicker to do and I can get us to the next process a lot faster. I've got a 1/2 inch diameter bottom bearing router bit in the router right now. And I'm still going to have some work to do on the spindle sander once we're done. But I think this will make things go a lot quicker and we can get to the body carving part of this build, which I'm really looking forward to. I'm going to mask up, turn the vacuum on, and we'll get this routing done. I am super happy with this. I don't see any voids in my glue up, which is a really good thing. I was slightly concerned about that. I mean, I felt pretty confident in my abilities to glue a top on at this point, but you never know. Instead of going to the spindle sander with this thing, since I've got carving to do all the way around the sides here, I want some wood reveal up in this area from that alder and down into the mahogany. I really think that's going to add to the character of this guitar. What I've got left here are the cutaways that I need to get that material removed from. So I think what I should probably do is get this cut as close as I can with a saw. Cut these little tips off right here that I don't need. And then we'll handle the rest of this with some files and rasp or whatever we need. We'll use this little razor saw right here. It cuts pretty dang quick, honestly. We'll flip this around, do the same thing to the other side. I think I can catch the rest of that with my little karate rasp and my files. That is going to be such a beautiful guitar. I'm going to have a hard time letting go of this one, you guys. But I must. Here's a little better look at what we're starting to sneak up on. I kind of want to do the carving on this guitar before I drill any of the holes in. When we get through with the carving on this, we'll pop the holes in here at the last, at the last minute, and then we can start our sanding process. I'll use a random orbit on this as much as possible. I'll do right up next to my neck joint, I'll do that by hand. So let's get started on the carving. Start from about our center line. And I'm going to let this taper out right here in our drop, because I've got plans that I'm going to do some carving up here on my cutaways or my horns as well. I got a little bit more work done here. I've got the reveal started. We want to keep working on that. And I found that I really like using a combination of tools on this. I think the Iwasaki flat works really good for getting the bevel flat and keeping it from being like a round over. You know, I don't really want that. I like a sharp, flat bevel. That way you get a nice tight line as you cross over onto the top. The Shinto works great for removing a bunch of material all at one time. I want to actually remove a little bit more of this and reveal some more of that mahogany up in this area. And I want that to taper off into a really fine line. Same over here. I want that really fine as it goes into the end of this taper. But I want the same to also be true for the mahogany reveal underneath the alder. I want both those to trail off into a really fine line around there. Now I'll switch over to the flat Iwasaki, and that cleans all those Shinto rasp marks up, but it also helps flatten this out. So I want to start to work on this area right here. I'm going to take my half round Iwasaki, and we're just going to start carving in this little cutaway area. I want to be really careful here and stay off of my neck. I want to go far enough to achieve what I'm after, which is comfortable access into the upper or to these last 5 frets or so. And I want that neck joint to flow into this body shape. You know, I don't mean to sound like I'm some expert on this stuff. I'm learning how to do this. I'm just telling you guys what comes to my mind as I'm doing this work. I'm just trying to be helpful and to give you guys some kind of guidance and hopefully teach you guys something through my mistakes and through my efforts, so you won't have to learn that lesson the hard way. That's really what I'm doing. I realize there's no going back from this, so I'm trying to be mindful and have enough foresight to not make a unrecoverable mistake. So there's where we are right now, you guys. Everything's starting to take shape. And you guys already know I'm not really a fan of the round over, unless the design calls for it. This one does not, or I don't think it does anyway. I feel like I need to reveal that thin strip of alder at least to about right here, so I can give the appearance of that curve that comes around here. I feel like if I end it right here, it's going to throw the perspective off. I may be wrong about that, but that's just how I'm feeling in my head right now. I am just really knocked out by this, you guys. I hope you guys like this as much as I do. 80 grit's what I like to use for this. If you're not comfortable sanding yet, you may want to try 180, because 80 grit is aggressive. Or do what feels right, man. You know, walnut is just a pleasure to work with. It really is, you guys. So I've been working on this thing for a little while. I didn't figure you guys wanted to watch me sand and grind and do all the things that are required for this, but this is where we are. I am really happy with it. I'm about to take this thing over to the spindle sander. We're going to clean up this edge with some 80 grit first. I'll switch over to a 240 grit drum, and then we'll take it around the side, finish up that, make sure we're nice and smooth. Then we'll come back over to the bench and start thinking about getting our sound holes drilled, getting our bridge post drilled in, routing our P90, getting our control holes drilled in, and our jack hole. Once we get done with that, we'll start the final sanding process on this thing and get this thing ready for some finish. I'm getting excited, you guys. I purposely went for an organic look on this guitar. Even though I want nice hard lines on my bevels and everything, what we need to do right now is figure out a new center line. I'm going to take my 600 millimeter chinois ruler. I'm going to put it on the side of my fretboard right here and draw ourselves a line. A line that I know is going to go past where my bridge is going to sit. We'll do the same thing over here. I can put this ruler away. Let's grab our crimson protractor. So I'm just going to pick a spot down through here. So we found that center line. I want to double check myself. We're good. I've made myself a couple of measurements here before we started this. So I want to come right here on that center line. And I want to mark out those measurements. So I've got 109 and I've got 150. That's where my bridge block's at. So we're going to go over here to our paper template. I'm just going to trace around this. I can see that indentation. So we'll trace that out on here so I'll know basically where my bridge block's going to sit. Now this is a 25-inch scale guitar. That is 635 millimeters. I'm going to lay this on our center line, flush with the end of my fretboard on this end. There's my scale length. 25 inches. I'm using a Godot wraparound bridge. I love Godot hardware. The finish on it's just incredible. We may actually have to recess this bridge slightly down into our body. I think we are going to have to. Right now we're perfect, but there's no adjustment down. I don't want that. It's a learning process, you know. It's my first hollow body guitar. It's my first break angle guitar. I am going to have to route a slight recess into the top of this body to be able to use this wraparound bridge. Now, I actually thought about putting a hip shot bridge that's got an 1/8 of an inch base on it. I got it out, measured it on my break angle. I'm about 1 millimeter above the saddles. It would have worked out perfectly. That's not the bridge I plan on using on this guitar. And I'm not going to use that hip shot bridge on this guitar because it's not what I planned. First of all, it'd cause me to have to drill string through ferrules on this guitar because it's a string through only bridge. Secondly, I think this bridge looks better with this guitar than the hip shot would. So here's where my problem came in. When I did the calculations for this, my neck break angle is perfect. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is the depth of my neck pocket. I calculated the depth of my neck pocket using numbers instead of the actual piece of wood. What I should have done was measured my neck heel depth after everything was said and done and not routed my neck pocket until I had that calculation. If I would have realized this on time before I glued up the neck, I could have glued up some veneer on the bottom of this thing and done an expanded heel on this guitar, made a little decorative strip right here where my transition occurs. Raised this up 3 millimeters, we'd have been in golden shape. As it stands now, we still are. It's not going to make that big of a difference. I've still got plenty of clearance above my body for the pickup. I've still got plenty of clearance above my body so the strings aren't too close and it feels all weird when you're playing it. Not taking into account the fret height. I am about 2.7 millimeters too low. So ultimately, I'm about right at 1 millimeter too low, because the frets I'm putting on this guitar are 1.4 millimeters tall. I've learned a valuable lesson from this. From now on, I will not route a neck pocket in a body blank until my neck is ready to glue into the guitar. That's where my mistake occurred, and that's what's caused me to have to do this. The fix for this, I'm going to take this bridge and I'm going to take a piece of MDF or a piece of acrylic, either one. I'm going to make myself a block about 8 inches by 8 inches square. I'll take a washer and I'll draw around the perimeter of this bridge, so it's expanded about 1/8 of an inch. That way it makes the recess that I route into the top of this body look like it was done on purpose. All you guys are going to realize that it's me doing this as a repair as opposed to something on purpose, because I'm telling you about it. But I've said this before, you guys, I have no need, no desire to hide anything from you guys. If I make a mistake, I'm going to tell you, because first of all, I want you guys to learn from me. Secondly, that's just not how it's supposed to be done. You know, I got to be truthful with you guys. I don't want to hide my mistakes from you. I want you to know I made them. I'm human, you know. I've seen this kind of thing done before. I should have taken it into consideration. And we live and we learn. So everything's going to be all right. Now, I did leave my fretboard a little bit thicker. That's going to save me a little bit of trouble on this thing when it comes to the string height above the body right here. So what I've done was, I spent about the past 2 hours making myself a template. Now, it didn't take me 2 hours to make this template. I was also in heavy debate with myself over what I was going to do about this thing. I've got my center lines drawn on the edges and down inside of this cavity. All I need to do is super glue and masking tape this thing. I've got my scale length line drawn, and I've got the front of where my bridge is going to be, so I know where to place this thing. Super glue and masking tape this thing down to my body. So I want to get that done right now. I don't want to wait any longer. I'm going to use 1¼ inch masking tape on this. All right, right there. So now what I can do is take my pencil and we'll mark the edge of this tape here. So now I can see those lines. I'm going to take 2 more pieces of 1¼ inch masking tape. I'll do 1 more piece at that back edge. We need a little super glue. That looks good. All right, so I need a shallow depth of cut router bit on this thing. All right, so this router bit, this is a 3/8 inch, 1/2 inch depth of cut. It looks like I can drop this just below the surface of my template, get both the bearings riding on the template, and be pretty much perfect on my depth. All right, you guys, let's get it. All right, that wasn't too bad. So that's all I was talking about doing, you guys. Just dropping it down inside the body ever so slightly. Now I've got another one of these bridges, so I will save this template. I didn't damage it with a router bit, all is well. This bridge, I mean, all Godot hardware is just exceptional stuff, you guys. It's the finish quality on the Godot stuff is just incredible. All right, so there is my scale length line, and I kind of determined that I want it at the front of the saddle's travel. That way I know my saddles will have to go back. So about right there. We're perfect, you guys. I am like 1/4 of a millimeter below my string slot, and that is not counting frets and action. So that is absolutely perfect. That will allow me to raise this bridge up about 2 millimeters, which is what I'm wanting. That's going to give me nice clearance above my pickup, nice string clearance above the surface of my body, and it will absolutely allow me to adjust this action from touching the frets to as high as I want to go. Now, this information is available on the Goto website, but I like to actually visually measure it. The spacing is exactly 82 millimeters. At 82 millimeters, half of that's 41. So we can get our Crimson protractor out, and I want to mark out 41 millimeters on each side. Yeah, I'm at 82 millimeters. All right, I want to check my distance from the front edge. I'm going to make myself a mark here. Okay. Now I can punch these in with the with my little mallet. All right, that's perfect. We'll double check everything multiple times. I got my bridge post right here. Let's take our caliper. All right, we're showing 10.83 on the non-knurled surface, 11.29 on the knurled surface. An 11 millimeter bit should work. All right, you guys, in all the excitement, I forgot to hit record. Bridge post holes done. I ended up having to do these by hand. I mounted up my 11 millimeter drill bit in my DeWalt cordless drill. I was super careful on how I held that thing to make sure I was getting them in at the right angle. My drill press would not reach. It would, but not without me having to run my neck into the wall, and I didn't want to do that, so Ben Crow does it by hand. As most of you guys know, I am a follower of his teachings. What we need to do now, I need to drill myself a ground path over from this post hole into my control cavity. I want to punch our volume and our tone potentiometer holes in this top. I want to get our jack hole drilled in, and I want to get our sound holes dealt with. I think the first thing we need to do is get our ground path drilled into here while I'm thinking about this. That's something that often gets overlooked, and it is not something we want to forget about. So I want to go ahead and drill that hole in. So all I'm going to do is take that 1/8 inch aircraft drill bit that I've got chucked up into the DeWalt right here. That's a 12 inch long 1/8 inch installer bit. I'm going to go down in this post hole right here and drill it at an angle over into my control cavity. That will be my grounding path. I'm already in there. Right there. This is a 1/16 of an inch drill bit right here. I'm going to use this to make myself a pilot hole for where our 10 millimeter holes are going to go. All right, there's our volume. Just like so. 35 millimeter Forstner bit, which is pretty much the same size, a little bit larger than a full-size potentiometer. And using that pilot hole I just made, I'm going to hog out some of this material. We're going to pop this hole through. There we go. I'm fine with that. Now I'll clean all this up with some sandpaper and stuff in the back because that looks all rough, and I got to shield all this anyway, so that's fine. We're in good shape as it stands. Let's mark out for our jack. I'm going to flip the body around. What I need to do now is mark out the center from side to side of my body so I'll know where to place this thing. So what I'm going to do is find that curvature, make sure I'm sitting dead on with the body, which I am about right there, and then we'll trace a preliminary location. Yeah, we're dead on 51, so we'll say 25.5 is the center. Let's find the center of just the mahogany. We're looking at 46 millimeters, so 23 is the center, and mark out 23. I'm going to take my little awl and just visually make myself a little dent right there, and that's where my hole needs to go. We're set up. I got a 20 millimeter Forstner bit in the drill. I changed the batteries on the drill. All right, that turned out to be a pretty clean jack hole, so I'm good with that. No major tear out. All right, so I'm going to start my big hole right here. We need to drill it first, and then I'll decide how much space I want between each hole and how we can work that out. So I'm going to start with a 30 millimeter Forstner bit. And you guys, I really should have done this before I mounted this top. I'm just going to have to go really slow and be super careful to not apply too much pressure. Next, I'm going to go to a 25. I'm moving in 5 millimeter increments this time instead of 10 like I did up here. So we're going 30, 25, 20, 15. And I'm going to follow that arc. You guys are witnessing the inspiration or certain annihilation. One of the two things is going to happen. All right, let's drill the 15 millimeter hole. I like it. I think it's cool. I mean, imagine that once I get oil on it. I mean, they follow the arc. I really love that. It makes me tempted to put another hole up here. I don't want to put another one in there. That's going to put it too close to the pickup. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave it at 4. All right, I need to come up with a new name for this guitar because figure 8's not doing it for me anymore. Before I decide this, you guys can help me name this guitar. So when I give it to the doc, I'll tell him what everybody came up with as a name. And I'll let you look at it as a whole before we go any further. So you guys come up with a name for this thing. I would really like something that refers to space or planets or something like that. I think that's what it looks like. If one of you guys has a different idea for a name, let me know. I need to route in for that P90, and then we start the final sanding process. I'll do the fretting after I'm done with the finish, you know? That way we can move forward on this build, go ahead and start getting some coats of finish on it. I don't want to let this thing get away from me, so I can't be in too big of a hurry. But we're getting close, you guys. I've got my tape down. I've got 3 blocks of wood like this as risers for my template. And I'll show you guys in just a minute what we're going to do here. Before I route this, I want to drill one hole, a 15 millimeter Forstner bit hole, where my pickup cavity is going to go and I want to make absolutely certain that I'm above that block I glued in the body. So I'll be able to shift my template fore and aft if I need to. I've got the shape of my P90 drawn where I think it needs to be based on that paper template. But I want to double check myself. So we're going to drill a hole down through here, right on our center line. So let's place our template up on here. I'm using this center line on the template scribed down. That way I don't have to fight the refraction from the acrylic. We're good to go. Let's route this cavity. One P90 route done quick style. The figure 8 build, or as we're calling it now, no name. Sweet. This thing is awesome. I am so happy. I mean, I really hope you guys can feel my enthusiasm. You know, that is one less worrisome task that I have to complete on this guitar. Routing always makes me nervous, and I think we've got what I would consider a successful night of work done here in the shop. So I could not be more happy, you guys. What we're going to concentrate on getting done tonight, I said last night I wanted to widen this bevel up just a little bit, get a little bit more of a reveal going on here. I've got room to do that with now that I can fill up inside of this body and kind of figure out where my wood stops. I didn't want to go too far and take a chance on going through the top. That would be a nightmare. I also want to work some more on the back. I want to get some relief carves done around the body. I want to carve a bevel pretty much around the whole way. I don't really want to do a round over on this particular guitar, and I thought bevels would be, you know, suitable considering I got that going on the front, and you guys all know I'm a fan of the bevel. Let's tilt the camera down here and let's go back to work on this thing. Now I want to be careful and not damage the work that I've already done to this thing. I just want to bring this cut back a little more. Mainly right in this area. Now I've got a defined 3-wood line here now, which is what I wanted. Add a little dimension by doing that number. What you do is you change the angle of the bevel, which I like to do. If you're going to do bevels, you might as well play around with it, you know. I've been working on this thing for a while. I got some carves done on the back here. I didn't figure you guys wanted to sit there and watch me sand all night, so I went ahead and just worked on this for a little while. I did widen this bevel out just a little. I cleaned up everything up in here. I worked on this transition a little more. I got a deeper bevel cut right here. I got a deeper bevel cut right here. The bevel's all the way around. I'm to the point now, we need to get sanding on this. So what I'm gonna do, I wanna get my bevels and my sides sanded first. Then we'll get after this thing with the random orbit sander. Sand this top and this back. After I triple check, quadruple check this guitar, We're going to be ready to wipe some oil on this thing. I'm not going to use a thin oil. This is a Zero-Cote fretboard. It does not need a finish, but I am going to apply some of the Crimson fretboard restorative oil. We'll sand it first up to 3000 grit. That will be the last thing we do before we start wiping oil on this guitar. This guitar is not going to require any buffing other than the frets. I'm going for a satin finish on this thing. So let's get sanding. You want to make sure that you don't have any ripples, no wrinkles or anything like that. It will mess you up, I'm telling you. So just be mindful of that when you're sanding. All right, we're going to start over here. I'm going to catch my bevel all the way around. This is 80 grit. We'll get our bevel as flat as we can with this 80 grit. And back here on this back area, I take little short strokes like that so I don't rock my block back and forth that way. If you do that, you'll get a round over more so than a nice hard line bevel. Don't worry too much about rounding your top edge over at this point again. We're going to catch the top of this thing with the random orbit sander, and that will get that line back hard again. All right, you guys, I spent about the past 2 hours sanding on this guitar. I didn't really want to film it because sanding makes for some awful boring video. I used 80 on a couple of different blocks. I switched to 180, sanded the bevels, the front, the back bevels. I worked some on this transition. We'll carry the body up to probably 400 grit since it's only getting oil and no color. If you sand wood past about 320, the problem you run into is if you're trying to put color on a guitar or on a piece of wood, if you go past 320, it is almost a definite problem. It will not absorb into certain parts of the wood, especially if you're using highly figured wood. The harder parts of the grain in that figured wood will not take stain at the same rate the softer parts will. So it causes you a blotchy look. You really don't want that. That's not an issue on this guitar, so I'm going to carry the whole body, back of the neck, front of the headstock, back of the headstock, everywhere on the body but the fretboard, up to 400 grit before we start to oil this guitar. I am going to finish sanding in these cutaways. We'll get around our sides. I'll hand sand this guitar up to 400 grit. I may use 360 Super Aslix paper. I'll get the fretboard sanded up to 3000 grit. In the next 2-week cycle of the figure 8 build, we're going to wrap this guitar up. In the first week of that 2-week cycle, we're going to fret this neck. We'll level, crown, and polish the frets. Everything's going to be nice. All our oil will be applied by that point. We're not going to have to buff this guitar because I'm looking for a satin finish. I'll probably put 5 or 6 coats of Osmo on this guitar. They only recommend 2, but I've got some pretty clean white maple going on, and I want a nice thick coat of oil, and I want to give that maple especially as much Osmo as it can drink. and we'll get that built up nicely. We'll get our tuners installed, all our electronics put in, and in the second of those 2 weeks, that will be the demo and the setup video. So we're getting close to wrapping this thing up, you guys. I would really like to issue a public thank you to Ben, Talitha, Tom, Ricky, Sam, Dale, all the guys at Crimson. I'm not sure if any of you have seen the latest highlights video from the Great Guitar Build-Off so far. But Crimson was kind enough to put me first on that video. And there were a couple of comments of guys that actually said they appreciated the fact that I was first. And I appreciate it. So thank you everyone at Crimson so much. You guys have made such an impact on me. And Ben, you've changed my life. You know that, man. So if you see this, I just wanted to say thanks. All right, you guys, I've made a decision, an executive decision. I'm going to wrap this video up right here. Before you guys get mad at me for not showing you this guitar with oil on it, I said in the video that I released last weekend on this build that I wanted to be up to a point that I was ready to wipe some oil on this guitar or already wiping oil on this guitar. Well, I'm going to wipe some oil on it tomorrow morning, but I've got a little sanding left to do. I feel like if I keep dumping footage into the timeline, not only is it going to make my video longer, it's going to stress me out trying to get all this done and still get a video released on Sunday. So I hope you guys can overlook it. I'm shifting back to my Great Guitar Build-Off project at this point, which is a Cloud 9 build. I'll be back on that guitar on Sunday evening, and we'll talk about the 7 of 9 build in that video as well. I'm going to be working on that guitar tomorrow and Sunday, and then Sunday around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, I'll start filming for the next Cloud 9 video. The next time you see the figure 8 build, I will also update you guys on the 7 of 9 build and let you know what kind of progress I'm able to make tomorrow and Sunday on that guitar. I got a feeling I'm going to make it a pretty good distance into that build because I'm using templates on that guitar, with the exception of some bevel carves and things like that that I'm planning on doing to it. If I wait and show the oiling process in the next video for this guitar, it's going to de-stress me a whole lot. So I hope you guys are cool with that. If you have not already done it, you guys, please give a thought to hitting that subscribe button. Throw me a thumbs up. Leave me a few comments. Let me know what you think about this build. Let me know what you think about the channel in general. The next video you see me in will be the Great Guitar Build-Off project, which will be episode 11 of the Cloud 9 build. And until that time, you guys, peace and love.